What's going on, Jets fans? Episode 50. We're halfway to 100. We're basically there, right? It doesn't take any time to get to 50. So, how's everybody doing tonight in the chat? It's great to see you guys. We got a couple of familiar faces. James Wighaus from Jets X Factor is here as always, but we've got the man, the myth, the legend, Jets Talk 24/7. How you doing, buddy?
Oh, good. Glad to be on. This is a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to talking some Jets with you boys.
Yes, and I hate to do this, but I want to get right to it because there's a lot to talk about, and I have a couple of special little things planned here while you're here with us tonight. We've got a 7-round Jets mock draft that we're going to do, and we're going to basically divvy up all of the draft picks so that each of us has 3, and we have full autonomy on how we want to spend those picks. And it's kind of like the pressure, like, again, I told James last week, there's no more bullshit. We've got to finalize our actual draft plans here because this is our livelihoods here. We talk too much Jets to not get it right, I feel like. So the pressure is on. Jerome Strack's 15 more days, 15 more painful days. It is going to be gruesome to wait that long. Anyway, before we get moving here, Ryan, how you feeling tonight, man? Great to have you. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, dude, I'm excited to talk some Jets. I feel like I'm relatively well versed, and I have my own opinions on where I think we should go. And I know it doesn't necessarily jive with the vote that I usually put to in the comment section. So it's going to be interesting to see what you guys think of it.
Absolutely, yeah. James, how you feeling tonight, buddy?
Good. Excited to talk ball with you guys, and Ryan, nice to meet you. And Ryan, listen, there is no wrong answer in this game here. So me and John are pretty open to all opinions there, and it's kind of nice actually when you're 15 days away. Usually you hear the same crap, so I'm pretty excited to hear what you got.
Yeah, get crazy with it because we talk pretty much the same. Like, I think our show's kind of boring because James and I agree way too much, and like I said, it gets kind of dry a little bit. So. All right, all of the people who are watching, thank you so much for watching. And I want to let you guys know right now, we are doing a giveaway, free Jets jersey. If you have not subscribed to Jets Today, go ahead and hit the button. Give yourself a shot at the prize. There's only one jersey, but hey, you're supporting a Jets content creator and you're giving yourself a shot. So go ahead and do it. And without any further ado, let's go ahead and let's do this. And we are going to do the 7-round Jets mock draft. And here is the picks, and sorry, James, we're going to basically just blot you out the whole night, so sorry. But anyway, real quick, we're just going to recap it here for everybody at home. Ryan's going to have picks 4, 38, and 146. James is going to have 35, 111, 117, so he's that mid-round master. And then I, yours truly, the expert here, 10, 69, because I had to give myself that pick, and 163. So those are the picks for this evening, and I'm going to take that off. So I'm going to actually ask you guys live, because we didn't plan this. Would you like to do it with a simulator, or would you like to just do it completely speculative on who we think will be where? It's totally up to you guys, because I'm prepared to do both.
I like the simulator just because there's so many different ways the first 3 can go, and that's really going to dictate how I go with that 4th pick, I think.
Done and done. You're the guest. I'm trying to make you comfortable, Ryan. I actually don't really care about James. He's there every friggin' night. So, all right, no, all kidding aside, we got James and we've got Ryan. Let's get this on the screen. We won't waste any time. Simulator is up, and let's see if we can see that. Oh, sorta. Let's try that. Yeah, that'll work. Okay, so Ryan is on the clock, and we're going to go ahead and hit the button. And let's do that by clicking continue. Aiden Hutchinson, Kayvon Thibodeau, and Evan Neal are off the board. So there is and again, if you, whatever position you want to see, but I think you probably know, maybe who you want to go here, but we've got Ikem Ekwonu, Trayvon Walker, Ahmad Gardner, Kyle Hamilton. You want Kyle Hamilton, right?
Absolutely not. I'd be so upset with Kyle Hamilton. For me, I'm in this weird spot of, I want to go edge rusher, but I really love the edge rushers I think that we're going to have a choice of 2 edge rushers at 10 if I were to go a different direction here. But since 2 edge rushers went 1-2, and I do think it's the most important part of our defense, it's something that Robert Saleh harped on and Joe Douglas. We haven't had the edge rusher in such a long time. So that's where I'm going to go. Trayvon Walker, I know Blewett really likes him a lot. So I guess I got to err on the side of that. He doesn't love Jermaine Johnson, even though I like the guy.
Dude, I was watching his live stream just a few minutes ago, and he talked about how he does not like Jermaine Johnson. So that is interesting that you bring that up. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so I think Trayvon Walker is where I'm going to end up going here.
Alrighty, Trayvon Walker is the pick. And guys, we're going to probably stick and pick with all of these draft picks. So we're going to go quick through this mock draft as well. Like, we're going to basically make a pick at each spot. And again, I feel like I don't know if there's a ton of, sorry, I'm screwing up this screen pretty bad here. So I don't know if there's a ton of mock drafts where the panel really just goes through it, basically what they would do. Let's see, Ragna Jet, he says Jermaine at 4 unless we can trade back a little and get him later. Connor Rogers loves Jermaine Johnson. And listen, just because Joe doesn't love him doesn't mean that there are not a million other people that really like Jermaine Johnson. There's quite a few that even suggest that he is ahead of Kayvon Thibodeau. So again, it's one of those things. There's no consensus. I'm not screwing around too much here. Let's see. We got Akem Ekwonu, Kyle Hamilton, Ahmad Gardner, Derek Stingley Jr., and Charles Cross all off the board here. Let's go to the wide receiver position because we did get our edge, and I've been saying all along, if we get our edge of 4, I am all in on a wide receiver. I tried to talk to people on Twitter about the idea if we don't take an edge at 4, we could potentially take Sauce Gardner and get our receiver in the 2nd round, and people just do not love that at all. But we've got our edge. I'm going Garrett Wilson. I feel very, very good about it, very strongly that he is going to be a dream fit for the offense. And, when you talk about like an ideal draft day scenario for the Jets, I think a lot of people talk about Kayvon Thibodeau and Garrett Wilson. Pairing those two up would be super sexy. 35 belongs to James, I believe, right?
Yeah.
All right,
belongs
James.
to me.
So I'm not going to go through all the picks of who went, but I will show you whatever position you want, and I'll show you the big board. Woo! Woo! Okay.
I know who I want.
So I'm going to take all this time trying to figure this one out.
Go ahead.
No, listen. So one of my pick, I'm taking Nakobe Dean here at 35.
Yeah.
One of my draft day takes. Everyone's putting out nightmare situations out there. I think a nightmare situation for me is if the Jets stay content at the linebacker position and they don't walk away, whether that's at 35 in the 3rd round, whatever they decide to do, they need to add something to the linebacker room, in my opinion. And if you're sitting there at 35 and Nakobe Dean is on the clock, you run the card in. So my pick at 35, I'm taking Nakobe Dean.
And before I hit that button, HD Marino, he does throw in there. He says, if Mafe fell here, that would also be insane. And I don't want to spoil anything, but that is sort of like the topic later in the show, the draft headlines. And I won't spoil it. But yes, Mafe at 35, even with taking Trayvon Walker, taking Trayvon Walker, I think could even be inbound. So anyway, you pick Nakobe Dean. And for the people at home, here's what we got. The really shitty pick, number 4 overall, was Ryan's. Garrett Wilson, the best pick so far, maybe, I don't know, is my pick. And then Nakobe Dean, 35 overall to James. All right, 38. And I'll be honest with you, I'm an idiot. So is it me?
I think it's me.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it's me.
Yeah, cycles back to you.
Let's take a look at the safeties here. I'm curious who's sitting on the clock. I think the 2nd round is just so perfect for safety and linebacker. I want to trade up for a receiver personally. I don't want to take one at 10. 38, interesting. Petrie. Oh, Brisker. I'm taking Brisker all day. Big fan of Brisker. Apparently he had a really good pro day too.
Yeah, he's athletic freak and versatile. Let's see. Anthony G says Dean would be a steal at 35. Yeah, he sure would. Robbie Oak says, oh boy, I'd love this. Yeah, this is a monstrous draft. I mean, James and I have done this a bunch of times. This is probably the best first 4 picks we've ever had. So Trayvon Walker, Garrett Wilson, Nakobe Dean, Jaquan Brisker. Again, that's 3 defensive players at each level. That is super sexy to be able to get a guy at each level at a very, very premium pick too. This is not like, mid-round picks here. These are early picks. All right, I'm back on the clock with 69. And I'm going to go to the big board here. Trey McBride is there. I'm not interested in taking tight end in round 3, although with Trey McBride being there, it's a little bit enticing. But again, I don't think we're going to do that. I think we're going to wait till maybe the 4th or 5th round. Isaiah Spiller, you could make the case that would be intriguing. Again, I'm not really into it. Chad Muma is a really intriguing option too, but we've already got Nakobe Dean back there. This is actually a tough pick.
Yeah, I don't know which way I'd go.
Yeah, I'm going to take a look at some of these offensive linemen because I feel like that's an underrated thing that we need to do. So maybe a little bit of a reach with Rasheed Walker.
I feel like we got to get a tackle at some point here.
I just
depends where it is.
Yeah, and I've been preaching about it this offseason, how we have to get in the frame of mind as fans that our rookies should not be starting every single season. Like, we don't need to have our starting rookie offensive lineman out there every game and to begin the year. So I love the idea of drafting somebody at the 3rd round, and I won't waste any time. I'm going to take Rasheed Walker. I actually took him in a mock draft a couple of weeks back. So Rasheed Walker, he's going to be the backup tackle and could potentially replace George Fant once he is no longer a New York Jet, assuming he doesn't re-sign with the Jets. All right. So this is going to be James' territory. You have 2 picks back to back, I believe, James.
I do.
And I'm going to recap. I'm going to recap our picks for you. We've got edge, wide receiver, linebacker, safety, and an offensive tackle. And the big board is very stacked tight ends. Very tight end heavy here. Any positions you want to see, I will throw them up on the screen for you.
Can you show me the corner spot for a second?
Definitely. Mario Goodrich, Cam Taylor-Britt. I think he's one of those like hybrid guys. He could maybe even play safety, actually. That's about it there. Safety-wise, Verone McKinley. We just took an offensive tackle. What do you think about Haskell Garrett, James? We do need an interior defensive lineman. That's something that people often will talk to us about, and I'm interested to see if, would you go D-line here as well?
Yeah, I'm not inclined, only because I'm going back to that tight end position here at 111.
Okay, let's do it.
Because I think there are a couple guys that would really fit. I guess in a sense, they would complement what we've added in free agency. And I'm going to go with Jelani Woods from Virginia, the big tight end. He's a big dude, run after catch, good hands, good blocker, but he provides a little bit of that big presence that can catch the ball for Zach Wilson, get in that red zone, and he's been a really high riser over the time here. So I'm actually going to skip over the Greg Dulcich pick, and I'm going to get us a high riser in Jelani Woods here at 111.
There's somebody that follows me on Twitter that has been screaming his name all off season, and actually Vern, somebody that watches the show on YouTube, he's been talking about Jelani Woods for months. So I think there's a lot. This could be one of those guys that goes a little earlier than maybe we expect. All right, cool. So you took a tight end, and let's go back to the big board here. All right, I'm not going to say anything. Go ahead, and what do you want to say?
You could keep here at the all here. So I'm going to take 117. I was hoping my guy Alante Taylor from Tennessee. Tennessee was going to be there. He's not there. He got taken. I did see someone in the chat mention Josh Jobe. I am an Alabama fan, and I do not want him at this spot. Just not there for me. I don't think he was very good. To be just quite honest with you. But Cam Taylor-Britt, the versatility and the value here at 117 I think is perfect corner, and probably can move also into the safety spot as well. So I'm going to go with Cam Taylor-Britt to give us some versatility on the back end.
I really like that pick a lot. I read about him. I watched some film of him actually earlier in the off season. I like him a lot, and he has the upside to play on the outside. Could play that's like you said, the hybrid kind of role. All right, we are back to Ryan, and Ryan, whatever you want to see. I got the Trayvon Walker, Garrett Wilson, Nakobe Dean, Jaquan Brisker, Rasheed Walker, Jelani Woods, and Cam Taylor-Britt. What do you
Let's
feeling?
take a look at the running backs. I'm just curious who's sitting there. This is right around where I'd want to look for one. My favorite back in this class is definitely Dalvin Cook's little brother. Big fan of James Cook. I think he's gone though. I'm pretty sure he went before us at this point.
Yeah, he's gone. So you're a big fan of him. Do you want to talk about him for a minute? Because I'm not saying I haven't heard people talk about him, but I would like to hear what you have to say about him.
Dude, just the hands out of the backfield. Like, I loved Dalvin Cook when he came out of the draft. Like, I thought we could have taken him in the top 10 until I learned that he was like in trouble with the cops every year since like his freshman year of high school. So then I was like, all right, maybe not. But dude, I've loved the talent, and I think the apple probably didn't fall too far from the tree. So if I'm looking running back, it wouldn't shock me, depending on how the chips fall in the second or third round. I could see a running back taken. I do think the sweet spot for like a tight end and a running back are right in that third, fourth, kind of round. And we have 2 picks in the 4th that I think might be kind of attractive for those positions there. But as far as running back, do we help out Zach Wilson, grab Tyler Algier?
Yeah, there's somebody in the chat who's first Ragna Jet. First he said it, and then he yelled it. Tyler Algier. Is that who you want?
There? Yeah, okay. Why not? Let's go that route.
Antonio Jimenez. I will say I like Algier a lot. I think I actually have him. If we were gonna do this, I would pick him as well. Hassan Haskins, I think you can get him pretty late in the draft, and he is a very, very physical back, to say the least. He is a bruiser in the middle, and I really like the idea of adding somebody like that, and I think Algier does that. I think he is one of those guys where very physical, but also versatile. He can receive the ball. He is not a one-dimensional guy at all. He ran a 4.6 40. I don't really care too much about that. It doesn't really kill his value in the NFL, I don't think. So good stuff. This is a great draft. I really, I'm liking it. All right, we've got one more pick, and it is me. I'm going to wrap this bow, I'm going to put a bow on this. Oh, I don't want to spoil anything else, but Jalen Weidemeyer really has fallen, hasn't he?
He went from like arguably the number 1 tight end with Trey McBride to like bottoming out. Yeah. 90.99 RAS.
Yeah, the RAS thing is interesting. That's something new to me. I hadn't really heard about that, but it was like a epically, like historically bad RAS score. And I'm not even really familiar with that form of data. All right.
Yeah,
what do you guys think about EJ Perry out of Brown, the quarterback?
Probably a smart guy.
All right, I'm done messing around. I'm actually leaning towards the edge.
Fitzpatrick.
James, can you?
I like.
Yeah, Fitzpatrick. Can you tell me anything about Tyreek Smith before I make him the pick? Is he a good fit for this defensive scheme?
Yeah, I honestly I do think he is. He's one of those guys. He's a bigger edge guy, so he can set the edge there. So I do think he fits. I think a lot of people kind of mix up. I don't want to say mix up, but in the 4-3, those edges have to be able to set the edge. They have to be able to play the run, and so that's an important scheme fit for us. So I do like Tyreek Smith out of Ohio State as a pretty good value pick at this point in time.
Yeah, I'm stuck between taking a wide receiver, edge, or interior offensive lineman, but I think that's a pretty good, again, we need those guys. We need those bodies, and rotation is important to this scheme and this defense, this coaching staff. So he is the final pick, and that was like the fastest 7-round Jets mock draft. I like doing it this way, but I think this was cool. This was a good way for you guys to see maybe where some of our heads are at this point. And here is the recap. Trayvon Walker is the number 4 overall pick. Garrett Wilson, number 10. Nakobe Dean, Jaquan Brisker, Rasheed Walker, Jelani Woods, Cam Taylor-Britt, Tyler Algier, and Tyreek Smith. I feel like we got better on both sides of the football, if you ask me personally. So I'm pretty thrilled with it. All right, that is done with that. And now I can get back to my chat here, who I've been ignoring. Let's see here. HD Marino says grabbing Haskins or another wide receiver. Haskins would have been good. We did just take Tyler Algier there. Ragna Jet, he says Bo Melton. We don't have a second wide receiver. Melton, quick sucker. Assuming Alec Pierce is gone by now, which he was. Let's hear.
I like Pierce a lot. I like Melton a lot too, but I think once you take a receiver, that's not a position I really want to double dip at in this draft.
Yeah, and again, I think the plan is for them to keep Mims. I know a lot of people were early on in the offseason very adamant that they were going to get rid of him, and I was kind of biting at that bait, but it seems like he is probably going to have a chance to be on the team. I think that's part of the plan. So, all right, PC says let's get a little bit more controversial and unpopular. Oh my God, he says let's start. I never liked Nick Mangold.
What?
Yeah, I think
come on.
I think that was intentional.
Oh, what a jerk.
Yeah. Alexander comes in with the heat. He says Mangold is one of the greatest Jets. What is wrong with you? I think he's just kidding. All right, let's move along here. Let's go to, and again, Ryan, I'm going to give you full tip of the cap here. This is your segment, buddy. It's the fuck, marry, kill segment.
I love it.
And we have not done this. I have never done this on the channel, so I saved this one for you, buddy. So it's very simple. That. If you do not know the rules to F, marry, kill, you are going to pick a draft prospect that you are saying F off to. One that you would be willing to get down on one knee and marry, and then the other one, you're ready to kill them. Or actually, no, do I have that wrong? Is kill the one you want to get rid of?
Kill's the one you want to get rid of. The way I do it with free agency normally, it's like short-term contract for the fuck because you want the one-night stand. Marry, you want a long-term contract. Kill, sorry, we're not signing you. So draft-wise, you probably do it like is marry a first-round pick?
Right.
Fuck, maybe a later, like mid-late round pick, and then kill is like, hey, I'm not touching this guy.
I think that listen, this is your thing. I came into it not even knowing how to do it. That's how excited I was to do it. I'll go first. Does anybody want to jump at it first?
It's all you.
Okay. All right, I'll go first. So Mary is a guy that I've talked a lot about. Safety Daxton Hill from Michigan. I don't know if we'll have the chance to marry him, though, because I don't think he is going to be in the range to which we can draft him. But he's been one of the guys that I've talked a lot about. I just love his versatility, speed, athleticism. And, I think he'd be a really, really hell of a compliment to what we have in Jordan Whitehead. I think those two would just be unbelievable in the backfield. I hope you're talking about my guy. Oh, no, you're talking about Trayvon Walker. Darn it. I thought you were excited about my guy, Daxton Hill. So he is the one that I will marry. Whew, the effing. That's the tricky one for me. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to throw out another safety. I don't know if that's allowed, but I'm going to do it anyway. Kirby Joseph is a guy from Illinois I've talked a lot about as well, and I'm willing to F him. A little short-term F. Quick, get it in.
Be careful. Joe Blewett might clip this. He got me saying we did F, marry, kill Bill O'Brien, and I was like, I'd fuck Bill O'Brien, and he's just like, clipped. It's just sending it to me. Son of a bitch.
That's pretty great. Apparently Chris Sims loves Daxton Hill. I think a lot of people like him. And again, that's one of those things where I don't think we're going to get the chance unless we trade up into the first round. And then I'm going to kill two people. And I'll kill one. I don't want to steal anybody else's. I'm going to kill Myjai Sanders from Cincinnati, the defensive end. He apparently went into the combine underweight, which, for whatever reason, he was super low. I don't know what it was, like 235, 225, something like that. Do you remember, James, what the number was?
I don't.
Well, very underweight, and then apparently was asked some specific questions and didn't respond the way some scouts and some GMs and some coaches were expecting him to. So that's just one of the things that I had read about. And I know that we need a speed edge rusher, but Carl Lawson's a speed edge rusher, and he's 260 plus pounds. Like, I don't want a softie on the edge. I think that's just it's not a good recipe. And James, you did a film breakdown of Evan Neal, and you said it did not go well for my Jai, and that was one of the first things that I saw, and I was like, I don't really want my defensive end going for a ride. You know what I mean? Like getting completely blown off. So he's dead. Dead to me. Sorry, my Jai. James, why don't you go next? Who are you effing marrying and killing?
And I think my Jai was 226 at the combine.
Oh,
I think it was 225 or 226, but it was in that range. And I think Cincinnati had him listed during the season at like 252, which is quite a big difference. And unless he had some kind of sickness, I have no idea, a stomach flu or something, but seems like a wild jump. So everyone knows who I want to marry.
Yes,
it's out there. It's known. Sauce Gardner. I'm marrying him all day long. Unless Kayvon Thibodeau is there at 4, he's my guy at 4. I just think value wise, he's the best prospect at that point in time that we can pick. Kayvon Thibodeau, I think it's geared towards position 2 edge wise. Why I would take him over Sauce, but I think Kayvon Thibodeau is going to go early before pick 4. I think this whole thing, I don't know what's going on with him. I just think it's a bunch of garbage. I choose not to believe it. Maybe it's just something that I don't want to believe in people making the same mistake that they made with Micah Parsons out there in Dallas and let Kayvon Thibodeau slip.
Would your wedding song be "Pour Some Sauce on Me"?
Yeah, that'd be a good one. But ultimately, I think he's either 2 or 3 best prospect in the draft, and I don't think the Jets can afford to miss at 4. Not a lot of teams can afford to miss at 4, but specifically for the Jets, he would step in and be cornerback 1 automatically, in my opinion. And that's nothing against Bryce Hall. It's a business, and when a prospect like him comes along, you just kind of got to make the move unless you have a trade back option that is intriguing for someone potentially looking up to get a quarterback. So my marry is Sauce Gardner. My F is going to be Isaiah Likely. He's my tight end option, and I kind of spoke about it with Jelani Woods there when I picked him. I was really hoping Isaiah Likely was going to be available in that spot. Because I think right now the Jets tight end room is, I don't want to say they are mostly blockers because they do have receiving ability, but there is a specialty in the blocking, and we need that absolutely, especially when you go that 12 personnel. You need tight ends that are going to be able to block, also, release and provide, something in the receiving game. But I think Isaiah Likely is the tight end downfield threat. He's the mismatch in it, and I think he can do some blocking, and Mike LaFleur would have a really good time mixing and matching him around the field. So I like Isaiah Likely as my F, because I think mid-round, I think we can get a really good tight end prospect there that could provide something we don't currently have in the tight end room. My kill, John, I'm going to do what you did, or I did what you did, and I kind of made my kill the same position as as my F. And I am moving off of Jalen Wademeyer as an option. I don't really want a part of him. I watched him against Alabama a couple other times as well. Wasn't impressed with the effort in the blocking ability. And like I said, I want the downfield receiving threat, but you still need to be able to block at the same time. It still has to be there, that ability, or at least that effort has to be there. And I think there are a lot of other tight end options out there that the Jets can explore during the draft that will fit better than Jalen Wademeyer at the end of the day.
I think that's all fair stuff. Good stuff. Ryan, who you effing marrying and killing?
So I'll give you my first choice for marry, but it's the same one, and it's Sauce Gardner. I love Sauce. Like, I really do. It's like, I want to take him at 4 in the worst way. And as long as the Jets are cool with any of the edge rushers, like the top 4 or 5 guys, I know one of them is going to fall to number 10. And I'm totally cool taking Jermaine Johnson at 10. I'm totally cool taking Karlaftis at 10, or any of the other guys. And I think there's a situation where you could see offensive line go number 1. You could see Willis go number 2. And then I think you could see another tackle go number 3. And at that point, I'm absolutely taking Sauce, because now you have 5 edge rushers on the board. You're guaranteed to get one at 10. If I could,
no, it's
oh,
okay.
go on.
Go ahead. I was gonna ask you because we talk a lot about Sauce on the channel, and James was there first, and I came along kind of later, and I'm seeing how it makes so much sense for us to do that. Talk a little bit about passing on an edge at 4 to take him, and why that makes so much sense, because I feel like it's such a hot button topic for a lot of people.
Yeah, and for me, it's almost the same situation that I found myself in the 2020 draft. I loved CeeDee Lamb. Like, that was my guy. It was CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson. I loved both those guys. And I was like, I would take CeeDee Lamb at 11. Like, no questions asked, but I understand the need for tackle. You got to protect your quarterback. Like, that was the right move. And that's kind of how I feel this year in the draft. Like, if the Jets love one of their edge rushers, I think it's so important that it's a position they shouldn't pass on if they love a guy. For me personally, I love a lot of the edge rushers. I love a lot of the wide receivers, and those are 2 positions I'm okay rolling the dice on a little bit. I don't want to say later, because edge would be number 10 for me, but Sauce at 6'3", the wingspan he has, and just he has all the stats that you want to see from a cornerback in college. And it just, even going up against Alabama, the guy let up, I think it was 13 yards. He's absolutely incredible. The ability to really shut down a receiver is tough to have in the NFL these days. I think you can have an argument for not going corner because of, people will say this defense is zone heavy. You got to get after the quarterback with the edge rusher. Cornerback's getting devalued. You saw Jalen Ramsey get, roasted a few times, and it really didn't matter because it was a strong offense. And to me, I think if you can get some turnovers and create some more opportunities for your offense, I think that is incredibly valuable. And I'm hoping Sauce, with his range, with his wingspan, is able to do that. Not to mention the number 4 overall pick for me is so much a statement pick for your organization. Like this is, you're telling everyone in your organization, this is who we align our beliefs with. And that's kind of why KT for me, it's not so much a knock on KT. I like the talent, but I like a lot of the edge rusher talent. Like, I like all 5 of the guys. So for me, I would just go with a different edge rusher over him. It just sort of, I don't know. He really makes me scared. I'm scared that he's going to be Jamal Adams 2.0. And it feels like that's where he's at. So I love Sauce at 4.
That's literally the poll for tonight's show it's fact or fiction. Is Kayvon Thibodeau going to be a concern in the NFL, a character concern? And the poll now is 20% of the votes are saying that it's a fact that he will be a concern.
I was one of the votes that said fiction. Because I'm not necessarily a character concern as much as it is like a devotion. Like I don't have the concerns with anyone else, like, at all. So, like, why risk it, right? Like, it's almost like the same idea with, I don't know, maybe you say the same idea with like wide receiver. Like, I love Jameson Williams, but if you like Garrett Wilson, like, why run the risk of a guy with an ACL tear when you can take Garrett Wilson? Like, almost the same kind of mindset. So if I were to go like not Sauce, I'll pick someone totally different. And it was our pick in the 2nd round. I love Nakobe Dean. That was the first player I absolutely fell head over heels for. And I was like, you know what? If you pulled the trigger on him at 10, whatever, like go for it. But ideally for me, I think if there was like a worst case scenario for the Jets, it's like the 2 edge rushers go at 1 and 2, and then Sauce goes at 3. And then I would be looking to trade down, and I'd be looking at the flying chicken.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm distracting you.
No, it's okay. I like the idea of a trade down a lot. And the Steelers and the Saints are the 2 teams I'm looking at, because you either get the 2 first rounders from the Saints this year, where you can take a Nakobe Dean at pick 19 and a receiver at 16, or maybe, a center in Zion Johnson or Linderbaum at 16, and then still trade up for your receiver in the 2nd round after accumulating even more picks. So it doesn't hurt you as bad. Or the Steelers, sitting at pick number 20, then you're getting a 1st round pick for next year. I very much like the idea of getting some future capital. So finding a way to get Nakobe Dean, I think he's a violent player. I really think he's aggressive. There's one play that I saw on Twitter
smart too.
Oh, he's real smart. He knew his teammate blew a coverage, and he went over, he made the play, and he got in his teammate's face and like shook him, like, yo, just straighten out. So I love Nakobe Dean. If I had to go with my F, I guess that one's a little tougher. I would love to find someone in the second round, but I think James Cook is kind of my, the running back. Every year I fall in love with a running back. Last year it was the Memphis kid, Gainwell. Really liked him.
Kenny.
I had him like a year and a half, like probably around the trade deadline the year prior. And then it just kind of, the opt out and everything. So I would say James Cook. I really like how he plays. I like him out of the backfield. I think he can catch. I think he is a compliment to Michael Carter, but he's also, I don't know where he runs as far as 40 time. I haven't done that much research. It's more so just been highlights for me on him. But he seems fast. Like his game tape seems fast. And I think when you look at the Shanahan offense and the LaFleur offense, they want that sub 4.4 running back. And I think if you pair him with Carter, especially since Carter's been banged up a little bit, even if it's not a perfect complement, I'm okay with that. And just getting fresh legs on the field is always a good thing. As far as my kill, I really don't want to take Hamilton.
There you go.
Like at all. I like, and it's not so much like a knock on the player. It's definitely the position. And it's also because I like safety at the top of the second round. I think there's a lot of really good guys. You mentioned Hill earlier. I like Brisker. I like Petrie. I like God. There was like 4 of them that I really liked at the scene from Georgia. I think are all worthy safeties that you could bring in. So for me, if we take Hamilton with either pick, I'd be a little irritated, I think.
I don't think you'd be alone in that feeling. I think that it's one of those things where like it's like what you said, James, last week. Is JD really gonna take the cheese and do this? Like I just feel like there's no way, right? Like there's no way that he's going to convince himself to do this. Specifically with the pick that he acquired in that trade, it just doesn't seem to make any sense if he does that. So, all right, guys. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, James. Sorry. No, you're good.
He better if he really wants Kyle Hamilton, like in my opinion, and this is just me, he better knock on the Johnsons' front office door and say, "Hey, listen, if I pick this guy, I have my job secured for a little while longer, right? Because you cannot tell me that if he picks Kyle Hamilton and some of these receivers that he passed on to pick him start having great years and we're in the hole at wide receiver looking for someone to be a playmaker and it's only Elijah Moore and Corey Davis is struggling again and something happens that Chris Johnson isn't going to knock on Joe Douglas's door and say, you traded a safety 2 years ago that was an all-pro for all these picks just to use it on a safety? Like that's insane to me. So I think Joe Douglas would need some job security to really pick Kyle Hamilton and not be in the hole for it later on if it doesn't work out.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where you have we haven't seen him invest in that. Like we've traded away Jamal Adams. We've offered 20% less on a contract for Marcus May. He's brought in, LaMarcus Joyner for like $3 million last year. He took Ashton Davis in the 3rd round. There's nothing in Joe Douglas's resume since he's been here that leads me to believe that safety is a high priority for him. So it would be surprising. I mean, a lot of that is circumstantial. Like I really do think that trading Adams was the right move. I do think when you have Marcus May on a franchise tag, obviously pay him less because you have him under contract for the franchise tag. If he wants to get out of it, you got to kind of bargain. So I don't know how much stock I should or should not put into it, but I don't know. I no safety for me in the first round.
Yeah, and you said it, and we've been saying it a lot. The second round's it's almost too good. Like the value that we're expecting to be there at that position is too good compared to taking Hamilton in the top 10. I feel like it's night and day as far as value goes. So all good. No worries. Let's see here. Yeah, somebody was talking about Douglas being on the hot seat, guys. It's kind of like last year. If we go 4-13, I don't think anybody's getting fired. Maybe a coordinator, but I don't think anybody at the top is going anywhere this season, even if it goes really bad the way we don't want it to go. Try to wrap your head around that. Nobody's going anywhere. I feel pretty strongly about that. But anyway, we're going to move forward here. If you haven't hit that like button, go ahead and do it. Support the channel. Would mean a lot to us. Let's go ahead and let's do some mailbag. I like talking. I like shooting the you know what. And this is an opportunity to do that. We can talk some things that you guys sent in. And again, like every week, if you don't send in mailbags, what's wrong with you? I give you an opportunity to have your voice be heard. So if you like, if you like having your comments read, that is an easy way for you guys to get it read. Send me those mailbags. I put a tweet out every single week. I put out a message on the community tab on YouTube. So just go ahead and look out for that. Here is the trade down scenario 1. And Ryan and I were talking about it before the stream. We've got a lot of trade discussions and almost inundated with them. But here is the first one. And it says, thoughts on going KT at 4 and then trading back from 10 to 20 with Pitt. You nab a 2 and a 3 this year and maybe a 1 next year. He says then you could take Linderbaum at 20. You would use 38 to trade into the first to grab Burks. And then you could grab Brisker with 35, Chad Muma with the Steelers pick. I guess the easy way to answer this is would you be willing to move back from 10 to 20? For me, it's an easy yes because I like accumulating picks, especially in the first 3 rounds. We'll go to you, Ryan, first. Would you be willing to do a trade back from 10? Excuse me.
Yeah, absolutely. I question whether or not it's going to be a desirable spot because the Commanders trading away those picks to get Carson Wentz sort of leads me to believe that they're not going quarterback at number 11. And I do think at least one quarterback goes in the top 10, if not 2. Like I could see Willis and Pickett both going because of the need. Like the Panthers GM came out and said something along the lines of like, sometimes you just have to pull the trigger on a quarterback in relation to the 6th pick. I think the value is probably in trading down from 4, but if I could get that trade from number 10, 100% I'm doing it. No questions asked. And I love the idea of trading back into the back end of the first. I think if you can get a receiver just in front of those 2 Chiefs picks and the Packers pick, I think you're going to wind up saving probably 2 receivers instead of waiting to pick 35 to snag one.
Okay. And for the sake of our time, we will do maybe 1 response for each mailbag. We have 10, so there's quite a few. Here's another trade scenario, and this one's going to you, James. What are your thoughts on getting KT at 4 and then trading back? This one might be a little bit more realistic. He's saying to get 15, 18 to get Burks and Linderbaum. I think that's the Saints, right? The 15, 18 spots or around those 2 spots.
I think it's 15, 19, but yeah.
15, 19.
15, 19.
Okay, so the idea of landing Burks and Linderbaum by trading back from number 10, it looks like, I guess he's saying from 4.
What are your thoughts on getting? No, I think it's KT at 4 and trading down from 10 to get those. I think that's a lot to get. Yeah. I mean, if we could get that, I'd love it.
Yeah. What do you think, James? I guess maybe they would have to throw in some other stuff, or I'm sorry, we would have to throw in some things to get that. But what do you think about the prospect of landing 2 mid-round picks?
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, if we can trade back from 10 and wind up with 15 and 19, yeah, I honestly, at that point, we'd probably have to throw in a pretty valuable pick, maybe even like 38 or 69 to make that kind of move. But I like where his head's at. Definitely KT at 4. I'm there. I'll trade down. I'd probably swap out Linderbaum for a defensive player at that point, because I think at 19, kind of like Ryan was saying, we'd probably have our option at somebody like Nakobe Dean or Devin Lloyd, and we can kind of add a linebacker to this room to go along with CJ Mosley. He's not going to be here forever, by the way. So that's a factor as well. This draft isn't just for 2023. There are other years the Jets are going to play. And so, they're 50. And even if we get 15, if a guy like Jameson Williams falls, I'd prefer him. But if we can get those mid-round picks, absolutely, that's more flexibility for us.
Okay, sounds good to me. And the last trade down scenario, I believe. Rumors are once again heating up that the Saints are in contact with the Jets and the Giants, and he actually sent me an SI article. He says that the team, the Saints, are trying to jump the Carolina Panthers at 6, who may be interested in Malik Willis. And this goes along with what you were saying, Ryan. A quarterback could go in the top 10. I kind of agree. I think that somewhere in the top 10 a QB will go. But anyway, he says, would you trade 4 to New Orleans, and this might be a little bit more realistic than the last one, 16, 19, and either 98 pick this year or a second round pick in 23. What do you think? Would you do that, Ryan? Would you trade back from 4? My answer is a yes. I would be willing to do it, and I would actually even be willing to do it even if KT were there. And I know it's going to be a little bit surprising to some people, but I actually would be very intrigued with those 2 mid-round picks. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Even if KT's on the board, I'm moving back from 4, especially if you can get the second round pick for next year. I'm definitely on the side of, we have so many picks this year. Let's either trade up, get some better players, or push some draft capital into next season. So yeah, I'm 100% on board with that one.
All right, James, any thoughts on that? Going back from 4, even with KT there. Let's ask you that, because I know you and I have talked a lot about how it's like a slam dunk, but again, if you're getting 2 firsts, I feel like it's too good to pass up.
Yeah, no, I would do that even with KT there, because I guess I'll throw a spin on it. At that point, that's probably a deal that you're going to have at least semi in place before the draft.
Good point.
Just because, and listen, and this is a biased thought, but it is what it is. I would move up before the Giants. What if you're going to risk the Giants? Are they set at the quarterback spot? I don't know. New regime. Daniel Jones seems to be, I don't know, for some reason getting a lifetime opportunity there, considering his play over the last couple of years. What if they're the ones that are in love with Malik Willis? Teams should jump the Giants and pick come for that 4th pick. And if JD has that draft capital in place beforehand, do you use some of that draft capital for an unhappy Deebo Samuel, for an unhappy DK Metcalf as time goes on? Because at that point, then you can turn around and say, hey, listen, we have this potential deal in place. If we pull the trigger, this is what we'll offer you, because things are going to happen fast on draft night. And can that extra draft capital not turn into more draft picks, but finally that wide receiver that we've been searching, that veteran wide receiver we've been searching for? Maybe, I don't know.
Catching a little flack from the chat here. I will say, like you said, Ryan, I will refer to that. By trading back, you are accumulating more picks that you can use to fill a lot of holes that we have. And I think that even the Jets at the top, they've mentioned that. They've talked about it. And Robert Saleh has been open about how they have a lot of holes and how it makes it a little bit easier because they can kind of pick whatever they want. And it's just easy to find fills. It's easy to find guys. And so you said that this is a deep edge class. And I think it's probably a well-known fact. And if we're sliding back, we can kind of pick a guy that we feel really, really good about that is not necessarily a top 10 pick, but you're still getting a hell of a football player and a player that a lot of people are going to be interested in. So I get it. You don't like the idea of it, and that's totally okay. If you're all in on KT, I do not have a problem with you disagreeing with that. But I think there's a lot of value in, like I said, getting another first-round pick this year. Pretty intriguing, if you ask me. So...
Yeah, the other trade down that I wanted to bring up too was the Steelers, because if you could move down with them, I think you're probably getting either Chase Claypool or Deontay Johnson in that trade along with the first next year. And that almost kind of is like the same thing as the Saints, because you might be taking a receiver with one of those 2 firsts. So if you can net a receiver in the trade down and then use that 20 pick on one of the positions you were looking at, say 16 or 19, I think it almost accomplishes the same thing, but you get a first in 2023 as well, which I think is super valuable, especially from the Steelers, a team that I think, could be a top 10 pick next year.
And yet another chastising from the chat. And I'll go to this one and then we'll move on. We'll stop being chastised live on our stream here. So this draft class is very unique from many others in that it's not really top heavy. I'm not saying there aren't good players at the top. There's going to be studs, obviously, in this draft class. But it's different from a lot of other draft classes where there's really no consensus. That's why we hear things like Trayvon Walker going number 1 or Aiden Hutchinson going number 1. And even Ikem Ekwonu was talked about maybe even going number 1 for a while there because it's not clear. And again, the same conversation can be had about the wide receiver position. There is not a consensus with these guys. Typically, we know who the top guy is, And if you think back just to, last year, Jamar Chase, it was without a question, he was the number one guy. No doubt. There was no conversation to be had. You were really just trying to figure out who was coming after him. Mm-hmm. And I think that this draft class really doesn't have much of any consensus. So if you're wondering why we'd be willing to do it, it's for those reasons, guys. All right, let's keep it moving here. Let's go to our next one. This was an interesting one. I don't know. I'm not sure how to feel about this one. Now, HD Marino, he's the one that sent it in. And he's flexing on us. Nice biceps, dude. He says, for the mailbag, do you think Drake London will be successful? He says, I do not. And he said it's according to this tweet. And he shared a tweet with me which had some different analytics. And he says that apparently every receiver recently who had a similar contested ball rate to London has busted. So if you're an analytics guy, this would be, we would have a hard time disagreeing with him. I will go to you, James, because we took him, I think, last week in our mock draft. What are your thoughts on him as a prospect and maybe even having some bust potential, which every player does, no matter who you are?
Yeah, no, listen, every player does. And I mean, you could probably find an analytic on probably each and every one of these guys that can swing in one favor or the other. Nobody is ultimately perfect, but I think when you're looking at Drake London, and all the other receivers that I guess have had a contested catch rate similar to him, there are reasons beyond just the numbers, right? The quarterback situation at USC hasn't been great. Ability to get the ball downfield. Keaton Slovis, I think, was his quarterback for most of his past season here. Not the best at throwing the ball deep down the field. And I think when you look at Drake London, he has route running ability at 6'5". He is a lot smoother than people are giving him credit for. And listen, sometimes players create separation in multiple different ways. Jamison Williams is just going to run right by you. That's just the fact. That's what it is. That's how he creates his separation. He is legitimately just faster than you. There's sometimes nothing special to it. That's all it is. Garrett Wilson, he creates his separation route running wise. He's a gifted route runner, in my opinion, where he's going to kind of, play on the leverage and the feet of the cornerback to be able to break at the right time and get out of his breaks, with ease in his route running ability. That's how he creates his separation. And listen, Drake London is 6'5". He has the downfield ability, and he's also going to be able to jump higher than you. That's how he creates a lot of his catches as well. But you'll find smooth route running with Drake London as well. So I don't think he's the one trick pony. Sure, there's the bust ability, and we may look back and say, well, look at his contested catch rate. He can't create separation in the NFL. That is what it is. It happens. But ultimately, I do think when you look at the film for Drake London, there is more to him than just the contested catch rate.
Okay, cool. Good answer. And Ryan, you want to comment on Drake London at all?
Yeah, I very much like the receiver in the late first round. So I don't know if he's going to wind up being an option for us. I think he could go pretty high. There's definitely a little bit of concern as to why he moved his pro day back. I know a lot of speculation is the ankle's not fully healthy yet. For me, that's alarming. I think the ankle, I'm more worried about an ankle than I am worried about an ACL. Like, it seems like the NFL teams are not concerned with the ACL. So like Jamison Williams is a receiver I would take at 10, no questions asked. George Pickens in the second round, receiver from Georgia, another guy I would take with an ACL tear. And you look at Godwin and Gallup, who both got $60 million from their teams respectively. I would just err on the side of maybe an ACL tear as opposed to a broken ankle.
Yeah, I think anytime you have an injury, it's something to be concerned about and something worth talking about. So it makes a lot of sense. We've got a couple of super chats. We'll go to those right now. Red John, thank you very much for the super chat. The support means a lot. He says, favorite all-time Jet from U3. He says, mine is Curtis Martin. Also loved Kevin Mawai. We'll go to you, Ryan, first. Who's your favorite Jet of all time?
Love Wayne Corbett. I legitimately cried when that man retired. I remember where I was. I think it was my sophomore year of high school. I'm sitting at like the family computer in like the family room of our house. and I'm just scrolling through news feeds and I see that he had, finally retired. And that was after he took the big shot. I think it was against Tampa Bay, maybe,
It was the
where he got his bell rung.
Chargers. It was the
Chargers.
Chargers.
That's
And I was at that game, and it was
oh.
on the sideline. We sat pretty
Mhm.
close for that game. And long story short, right? Yeah, long story short, he is also my favorite Jet of all time. It's without question.
Oh, dude, it was just, there's something about, I was never a very tall kid. I when I got into high school, I was like 4'10", 85 pounds. So Wayne Corbett being an undersized dude, fast guy, I loved it. That's an easy one for me.
Yep. James, who's your favorite?
I go back and forth, but one of my favorite, or I'll say he's my favorite. I love David Harris. He was my guy, the hitman. Just always all over the field. You never heard a peep from him. He just did what he had to do. Wasn't the most spectacular athlete in the world compared to some of the other, super freaks that are in the NFL. But just consistently got the job done, gave us some really great moments, and was really the man in the middle of that defense. So David Harris for me is my favorite Jet.
If you go back and you look at the stats that he had compiled I think it was the 2011 season. And when you look at those stats and you realize that he didn't make the Pro Bowl that year, and he never made the Pro Bowl in his career, but that specific season, it's unbelievable that he didn't make the Pro Bowl. Numerous sacks, multiple interceptions, 1 million tackles. I mean, it was like he was all over the place that season. It was pretty disappointing that he didn't make the Pro Bowl that year. So underrated and so good too. All right, Edward Ziff with the other super chat here. Thank you very much. He says, want a receiver who gets open, not good at recovery from tight coverage. Can't beat speed and great hands. So I think what he's saying is he's not really in favor of a guy who's going to be winning those contested catches and kind of relying on that. Speed and strong hands is what he's looking for. And to be perfectly honest with you, it's hard to argue with that. But as I've said, Drake London would be the different that this offense doesn't have. We don't have anybody like him necessarily. We don't have a guy that's 6'4" and, can run routes pretty well and just an absolute beast, man. He can jump, like you said, James. He is a freak. So thank you very much, guys. And we'll go back to the mailbag, and we'll go to a couple of topics here. I think we're running a little low on time, and I want to get to some of these because they're pretty different, I guess. This is a coldest draft take. Something that you felt really strongly about early on in the draft, early in the off season, that now looks like utter poop. Anything that you guys have, I wrote down a couple, and I will give one of them, and I'll give you guys a chance to think in case you need it. Wide receiver David Bell from Purdue is a guy that I felt really good about, and I think he still has a chance to be a good player in the league. But I think he ran like a 4.7 something. That's not very good. And even guys like Anquan Bolden, who ran a slow 40 time, ran a little faster than that. He is a good route runner, but that was a guy that I was super high on in round 2, and it doesn't feel like he's going to be even close to round 2. Jalen Weidemeyer was a guy that I did a video comparing. It was McBride, Ruckert, and Weidemeyer, and now that just looks kind of ridiculous, having him even in the conversation. And something that I talked about at the very beginning of the offseason, I said I didn't want any round 1 offensive lineman, and I still feel strongly that at 4 and 10 we should not be doing that. But I actually would be okay with trading up into the late first if Linderbaum is there. I'm okay with making that move. So for that reason, it's a cold take by me. That's what I got. James, you can go first.
So I took it as something that I don't think a lot of people will agree with.
That's okay. You can do that.
Yeah, because I think I have a take that I still believe to this day that I think a lot of people have moved off on, and maybe, I don't know, call me crazy for it, but if the Jets are looking for a running back, I do think, like we've said, it should be later on. They have way too many holes to fill. I think a very good option for them is Kyron Williams out of Notre Dame. and he took a dive, a straight nosedive after the combine because his combine was ridiculously bad. And I got that. I understood it. When it happened, I was like, "Ooh, no, that's not good." Because he's not like a big guy or anything like that. So the fact that he ran slow, didn't jump very well, when these guys that are carrying so much weight, are putting up these numbers, and there he is like 5'9", a buck 94 or whatever it was, just kind of running in the 4.6s is not good. But the fit for the Jets for me, I know everyone's looking for a thumper. I agree with that. But the Jets were really bad at the running back spot in two areas of the offense, and that was pass blocking. Ty Johnson played way too much on third down and was asked to pass block, and he could not do it.
Mm-mm.
And then they didn't catch the ball very well out of the backfield. Michael Carter gave us here and there, but he needs a compliment. And I do think those are the two best pieces of Kyren Williams' game, is his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. And he is, I think, without a doubt, the best pass blocking running back in this entire draft. So I'm urging people to get away from the numbers at the combine and move back to just the football player himself. And if we can get him in the 5th round or the end of the 4th round, whatever it is, and they're looking to add to this running back room, this could probably be a wildly cold take, but I think he would be a perfect fit for the Jets.
Very good answer. Ryan, cold take that you had? You don't have any, right?
Oh, no, I got plenty. Ja'Kai Polite, all excited for him. I got a bunch of not so great takes. Okay, so early on in the offseason, I didn't love it. So one thing that frustrates me is we drafted a tackle and we drafted a wide receiver very highly in 2020. And it bugs the crap out of me that people are considering taking offensive tackle and wide receiver in the first round after having that, or even that the Jets should be considering it. And I do think there's, reasons for it and everything, but it just burns me up inside. I had us going Ike Ekwonu at number 4 for a while. And a lot of it had to do with us not having the right guard and plugging him in there. Then you have an insurance policy for if Fant or Becton, get hurt, or if Fant, you can't figure out his contract and he winds up walking at the end of the season, or you decide to trade him, or if Becton's not healthy. And like there was a lot of benefits to seeing that. So I don't want to say I'm like totally off, but going offensive tackle specifically right now, especially with one of the top 2 picks in this draft, I'd be really, really irritated because Joe Douglas really sort of savvies himself as an offensive line scout. And if you're that good, I don't think you need to spend a top 10 pick on the tackle position. You should be able to get a developmental guy. The one offensive lineman that I think I could see them move, and you brought it up, was, I'll say 2 of them, Linderbaum and Zion Johnson. And I think Zion Johnson almost edges out Tyler Linderbaum for me just because of the positional flexibility, the guard center kind of hybrid. And there's a little bit of a weight concern with Linderbaum just because he's really, really light. Like, he's super fast, and like, I understand why people love him. I would have no problem with the Jets taking him. But offensive line for me, where I was a little bit stronger on it in the beginning part of the season, I'm definitely backing off of that now, mainly because of the Laken Tomlinson signing.
Yeah, and I think I don't know why I felt like it was always smarter to go to free agency, and I talked a lot about how the contracts would line up. I'd said that AVT, by the time that this Laken Tomlinson contract expires, we're going to need to pay him, hoping to goodness sake that we need to pay Becton as well. So it made sense, I thought, to always go to free agency, but it's going to be hard. Like we've heard them say, it's going to be like they're going to have an argument in the draft room about offensive line, defensive line. And I do think the defensive line should win the argument. And like you said, we have got to start landing some mid-round guys, especially on the offensive line. So we cannot continue to take first-round offensive linemen and only rely on that as the only source of having a good offensive line. It just doesn't make any sense. There's too many examples of teams building their offensive lines in a myriad of ways, not just through the first round. So I agree completely, and definitely a little bit chilly. Lou Chandler, he says, we're all sleeping on McBride right now, and he says that heads would roll. Sorry, I'm getting blocked here. Heads would spin off shoulders if JD takes him in the second round. I'd be very shocked. I would be very, very shocked if they did that. The depth of the class, number one, and also the fact that we invested into 2 tight ends, and they were not cheap. The contracts were not necessary. They were not they were not Tyler Croft contracts. These were guys that they invested in for 2 to 3 years, and they're here to stay for at least a couple. So, you're trying to embarrass me on live streaming? Is that sunburn, or have you been watching too much Jets 24/7 content? Good stuff, gents. Funny. So here's the truth. When I drink beer, it doesn't matter if it's 1 beer, 10 beers, I get a little rosy in the cheeks. I'm like a little blushing. I'm a little blushing bride. So I get a little rosy. I can't help it. It is what it is. Thank you very much for the super chat, Buffalo Jet fan. And yes, it's nice to have 24/7 here. It's great to have anybody because I've said it all along from the beginning when I was like just trying to figure things out. You guys have always been so welcoming and just super kind. So it's pretty cool stuff. And guys, I have in the description here, and it's maybe a joke to some people, but I've included Ryan's information in there. So if you have not checked out his channel for whatever rock you've been living under, go ahead and check out his content if you haven't done that already. Fantastic content. And before I had a channel, that is absolutely one of the channels I watched. I would definitely refer to, their live streams, their videos. It's all good stuff. So, all right, no more butt kissing. Let's keep it moving. Let's go to my last real topic, and then we have mailbags pretty much the rest of the night. And Ryan, I don't know what your plan is for the rest of the evening, but you're welcome to stay as long as you want, or after this one, you're free to go as well because it is past 9. 2022 NFL draft headline. If you could write a headline for the New York Jets specifically, not for the entire NFL, how would that headline read? Or maybe what kind of headlines you're hoping to read on that Friday morning after the first round of the NFL draft. It's wide open. As far as how you guys want to interpret this one. I have a couple, and again, like always, I can go first unless somebody wants to go at it, because I did prepare. I wrote a couple, so...
I got one.
Okay,
I got one.
Go.
So, Jets crush first round with 4 first-round picks. You trade down from 4, you get the Saints 2 picks. You trade back into the first, Jets have 4 first-round picks.
Wait, it would be like a flashback of 2000, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, I still think value for receivers the tail end of the first round, and I think it's very possible the Jets trade down from 4 with the Saints.
All right, not to get off topic, I want to know who it is. Is it Christian Watson, Jahan Dotson? Who is it?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I like both those guys a lot. Christian Watson is interesting for me because of the speed, because of the height. We got to see him at the Senior Bowl. I do think we're going to take a lot of Senior Bowl guys. I would say of our, what do we have, 8 or 9 picks? I could see half of them being Senior Bowl guys. Not necessarily guys that were on our team, but like in the case of Jermaine Johnson being on the opposing team, I could see that for sure. Dotson, Watkins, Pierce, Pickens. I like
Pickens.
all of them. Like Pickens is an interesting one for me. I do like the SEC receiver. Like he could have been the number 1 receiver if he didn't tear his ACL like in the spring. So, and not to mention he is violent when he blocks. There's a video of him like shushing the sideline. Then the play starts, he throws his defensive back backwards and then looks back at the sideline and gives him a shush. And I'm like, that's a guy that's going to play with some vitriol. He's going to be super angry that he went in the second round or late first when he thought he should have been the top wide receiver taken. That's a guy that I think has a chip on his shoulder that will impact teams in the next level.
So the who are you just talking about? You're talking about Pickens.
Yeah.
One of the players that one of the victims to his blocking was actually Daxton Hill. He completely put him on his ass. I mean, really just completely bulldozed him. So if you guys haven't watched that, go ahead and just YouTube pick George Pickens blocking, and you will find a highlight reel. He's unbelievable with the blocking. And yes, Ragnar Jet, he rocks. Yeah, there's a lot of upside with him too, for sure. Not just a blocker. You know, he's a pretty
Mhm.
explosive guy as well. James, you got a headline? You want me to go?
Yeah, I got one. It's not as juicy as Ryan's there, though. That was nice.
It was.
So my headline is back to back. Jets GM Joe Douglas follows up his 2021 draft haul with a dynamic class. That's my that's my draft headline. 2020 was not great. I think we can all potentially agree on that. I mean, if you get a left tackle out of it and some contributors, but as a whole, it's not looking all that great. And then last year, he kind of turned the gas up, and I think we're going to have guys on this roster for quite a while that are going to come from that 2021 class. And I think he's got the ammunition, and I think his mind is in the right spot. I have no idea. It's a total guess, but I feel like his mind is in the right spot based on what we've seen from who he's trying to trade for wide receiver wise. I think he understands this team needs some dynamic athletes. Speed, whether it's on the edge, whether it's a dynamic corner, whether it's a wide receiver that can take the top off, or 6'5", whatever it is. I think he's going to go after dynamic athletes to really round out this roster. So that's going to be my headline. He essentially knocks it out of the park back-to-back years.
Okay. Good stuff. I have a couple. Jets to throw AFC wide receivers into the sauce pot. That's the first one. Wilsons of Wall Street. If they draft Garrett Wilson, the Wilsons of Wall Street. I've got Jets O-line could be the Linderbaum. And then
You're way more creative than we are.
Well, I had a little bit.
Fun.
I had a little bit of time to think about it. And then if you guys remember the Chris Berman call after they draft, it was either Johnny Mitchell or Kyle Brady. He said, New York becomes tight end. So I said, New York becomes defensive end. I think there's a chance maybe they surprise us and they go double dipping a little bit here with the edge positions. So there's my headlines. If you guys could do me a favor and put your headlines in there, I've tried to put as many of them as I could up here. Somebody said something about the Bills missing a pick. I like the idea of that. They do what the Vikings did. They just didn't draft anybody. That would be fantastic. Let's see here. Hey, the sauce pot. Yeah, man. Throw them in the sauce pot.
The big applesauce.
Yes. Little applesauce. All right. Let's move on. And we're going to go back to our mailbag, which we have still many, many more. And that will probably, whenever we finish that will conclude the show. I like this Joshua McMillan guy. What are the Giants even doing? Could you imagine? Oh, that's a good one. I like that one. I would like the Giants to stay inept for as long as possible. I don't want them to figure it out. I don't want them to be good anytime soon. I don't even hate them as much as I hate the Patriots, but I'm fine with them being down at the bottom for a while. Frig the Giants, that's what I say. So
I want to see some young Jet fans. The Giants kind of stole that from us with their 2 Super Bowls.
Indeed, they did. All right, Bills could miss their pick and still win the Super Bowl. Don't be a Bills bandwagoner. Screw them. That's going to ruin their franchise. They're going to miss the pick and it's going to send them back 10 years. All right, let's go to the next mailbag. And it is going to be... This is a good one. This is from Jets Grinch. He says, my rankings, Burks, Wilson, London. He says, the difference between them is minuscule, and I'd be thrilled with any of the 3 at number 10. He says, there's too much smoke and not enough difference to get invested in just one. I guess just general thoughts on, really, it could be any of them. It doesn't just have to be those 3 wide receivers. And that's kind of what I've been saying, is that we don't have to take one at 10, even though I like the idea. We do not have to do that because of the depth of the class. And I know some people want to go and say, like, oh, let's get the top guy. Let's not screw around. These GMs, they grade these players. And they're not just like falling in love with a specific player and saying we have to get this guy or else the draft is ruined. They better not do that, at least. Um, so I don't know. I buy into it quite a bit that they value more than just one. So Ryan, what do you think about the
Yeah,
idea of them being super close?
yeah, I don't know. I think all the receivers, like there's probably 10 guys that I really like in this class, in the top 2 rounds. And I wouldn't take one at 10 personally. If there was one I would take, it wasn't actually in that message, but I like Jamison Williams. I think I'm not
Mm-hmm.
afraid of the ACL. That is the guy that I think would be the consensus number one wide receiver in this class. If he didn't tear the ACL, he may not even make it to number 10 if he was, fully healthy. So I'm okay with taking him. Burks is someone that sort of reminds me of like an AJ Brown, Debo Samuel type of receiver. And you look at some of the guys we're talking about trading for: AJ Brown, Debo Samuel, DK Metcalf, all second round picks. Like the value in receiver is that end of first, second round. You have them for 4 or 5 years, maybe a franchise tag them a year, and then you trade them for picks. I think that's where the value lies. Um, so I don't particularly want to go 1 at 10 because of, like you said, the class is so close. I don't think there really is much of a consensus top guy.
Well, and like you said, speaking of current NFL, trends, these wide receivers are making buku bucks. And I think I heard
Mm-hmm.
from Dan Orlovsky just yesterday, I think it was 8 wide receivers are now making north of $20 million per year in the NFL, which is clearly the most. And it's always going to be more than what it was, but that's a lot of dough for a wide receiver. James, what are your thoughts on them being pretty close? And you kind of have to play the game of the NFL draft. It's like a game show. You can't always get the top guy. You got to play the game a little bit.
Yeah, you can't always get the top guy, and I think it's a flavor situation. It what are you looking for? With your wide receiver, position there. What do you need? Again, do you want the 6'5" center? Do you want the crisp route runner? Do you want the bigger guy? That kind of has a size, strength, and speed combination to him. That like a Traylon Burks there, or do you want the guy that's just going to run past everyone in Jamison Williams? It's weird because they're all so talented at what they do. Their certain specialty, I guess, or how they play the position. That if you're looking for one of those guys in the top half of the first round, it's all about what you're looking for. And so I do think they are close. I'd probably put Traylon Burks near the end of that list if those are the guys that we're talking about there. Garrett Wilson, Jameson Williams, Drake London. I think those are the top 3 guys there, and then I do think there is potentially a little bit of distance between them and Traylon Burks, but not too much. And then everyone else kind of follows along pretty closely there. We talked a lot about George Pickens. He's really interesting because of the talent level that he brings, the athlete that he is, the injury that he did have that kind of let him back from production. And no offense on Stetson Bennett, but he's not exactly going to be playing on Sundays. And so, quarterback position, Georgia's offense, the way they run the ball, the way they're up in games, it just doesn't allow for them to throw the ball all that much for you to see the production you'd like from a wide receiver coming into the draft. So George Pickens is kind of going underneath the radar there in a sense. So I think not much difference between a lot of the guys there. It's all about what you're looking for, because I think you'll find what you're looking for in one of these guys.
Yeah, I had
Yep.
one of the. I was talking to someone. I don't know if it was on Instagram or Twitter, but just trading up, into the first round, like people are upset because you have 2 early second round picks. Like, why wind up, giving up more picks to get just a little bit higher? And my rebuttal to that is you're saving $15 million a year by getting that 5th-year option on a wide receiver. Ideally, assuming you're going to re-sign that guy for a second contract, so you have to hit on the deal in order to have that kind of play out. But you kind of that's another little benefit to try and figuring this all out, because like you said, $20 to $30 million for a receiver is just crazy.
It's a lot of dough, and it's never going to go down. The prices in the NFL only go up. That's just the way it works. Um, yeah, so that's another thing I've been reading as well. People are starting to think maybe that Jamison Williams, a lot of conversation about him being available in the mid to late first round. And now it seems like there's a chance he could end up being the first one off the board. I don't know if he will end up being that, but it's starting to feel like Atlanta could end up being a spot where a wide receiver goes just based on their really awful wide receiver room, but they have a billion needs. They have a lot of problems on that team. They just traded Matt Ryan away, and maybe they're a sneaky team. Maybe that whole NFC South is all competing for a quarterback. Maybe they all want a guy. Maybe Atlanta would like to replace Matt Ryan. So many different ways. And one of my followers on Twitter, and he has his own YouTube channel, Straight 100 Jets. He keeps talking about how this is going to be one of the most unpredictable drafts in recent memory, and I have to say I agree with that. It is going to be absolutely wild, and I'm really excited about that. Not just for the Jets to see how they do, but just all the craziness that comes with draft day. So, all right, good stuff, guys. Let's go to this one. This is from Sean Bennett, who I think left us just a little bit ago. He says, I just think that the 32 through 45 picks in the draft is the meat and potatoes of the draft. Maybe we can speak about what prospects would be vital to grab at those second round picks. Other than that, it's been slow so far in the news world, and that's exactly right. We're at the point of the draft season where it's going to be quiet from here until probably like a couple of days before the draft. Things will start to get kicked up a notch then. But right now, there's not a lot of news. And I like the question, who are the guys that we should be really, looking at in the second round? I think Ryan's made it pretty clear. He likes the safeties in early round 2 and maybe a wide receiver. James, what about you? What do you think in the early second round? What makes sense for you?
Yeah. It clearly depends on what happens at 4 and 10. But ultimately, I do think there is a weakness on the interior of the defensive line. And there are some names that are going to present, interesting scenarios for the Jets if they want to address it. I think Devontae Wyatt is the big name. I'm not a Jordan Davis round 1 guy. So that I'm not in that camp. I think there are some people that are starting to get there maybe in certain situations, but I think, a name like Devontae Wyatt at that, 35 or 38, if he's there, is really intriguing for the Jets. And then, like Ryan mentioned, Senior Bowl wise, Perion Winfrey, did they fall in love with him at the Senior Bowl? He's probably going to be there at 38. And it would be a pretty interesting pairing with Quinnen Williams, because in this 4-3 scheme, they need to not only be able to stop the run, but they're looking for pressure from that inside interior there that he can provide. And so if we're looking at interior defensive linemen, I think Devontae Wyatt, Perion Winfrey, Logan Hall, names like that would be really interesting in that range there. And then obviously some safeties, the Jaquan Brickster, who we took in our mock draft. Jalen Pitre is a really interesting name. And then there's going to be a ton of wide receivers. The one wide receiver name I'd probably keep an eye on in that range for the Jets is Sky Moore. Really good against man coverage, has the ability to beat man coverage. And that's one of the things that the Jets wide receivers were the worst at last year. So there are a lot of interesting names in that 32 to 45. This draft and every single NFL draft that has ever existed it goes beyond round 1. We have round 1 on Thursday night, but I promise you there are guys that are going to go in that 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th round that one day we're going to be talking about 2 years from now and saying, how did we miss Stephon Diggs? How did we miss Devontae Adams? How did we let Alvin Kamara go this way? That's always going to happen. And so when we had that discussion earlier on, not to bring it up, when people were kind of giving us flack for wanting to trade for more picks, we've been picking in the top 5 for the last decade, it feels like. And here we are still. So we clearly, or we didn't let what we thought were top prospects fall to other teams. We took them, and we're still with pick 4 in this NFL draft in 2021. So this draft, it's going to go on beyond pick number 10 here. And we got to hit on 35, 38. We got to hit on 69. Those are the picks that make teams competitive and ultimately, reaching for playoff spots and not picking in the top 10 every single year.
Oh, muted.
Are you muted?
There you go. Muted. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. He even did the little tap, and I should have realized. It still didn't work. Thank you very much. What I was gonna say is like there are a million examples of the really like good teams and the Super Bowl winning teams nailing those picks. The one that always comes to my mind is the Seattle Seahawks. They found Richard Sherman in the late rounds. I think it was like 5th round. They found Bobby Wagner, not in the 1st round. They found Russell Wilson, obviously, in the 3rd round. So it's just you've got to hit in the mid rounds. And you're right. Getting more dart throws is huge. Ryan, you've talked about, a couple of groups of positions. Are there any specific guys that you're looking at in that early 2nd round, which we have 2 picks in?
Yeah, let's say we go receiver in the 1st, just so I can give a little bit of a different answer.
Sure.
I would say linebacker and safety are the 2 kind of sweet spots at that top end of the 2nd. And then I would even say the 3rd. But I think the 3rd, you wind up losing some of the nice top end talent at the linebacker position. Guys like Christian Harris, I think, is really interesting. Chad Muma. The safety position with Brisker and Scene, and like I feel like you could really build an entire Georgia team based on like our needs at the different picks. Like if you really wanted to, you could go Walker at 4, you could go Davis at 10, you could go Pickens at 35, you could go Scene at friggin' 38, you could go James Cook at 69, and it just it goes on and on. It's fascinating how good that team was. Yeah, and then I guess running back is the other sort of weird situation. I don't particularly want to go running back in the 2nd round, but it's a sneaky position that I could see us possibly go with if there's someone they really love. I don't know. Safety and linebacker to really answer it.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Joshua McMillan throws in here. He says Brandon Smith, the linebacker from Penn State, looks like somebody who will excel. Hard to argue with that. I mocked him a couple of times early on in the offseason. Very, very athletic guy for sure. Edward Stewart, he says, I wouldn't mind couple dipping. A new phrase. Double dipping at linebackers in the 2nd round. Definitely agree with that. Like you said, Muma, Harris, very intriguing guys. I'll throw in some pass rushers. We saw Mafe was available at 35. I don't know if he's actually going to be there, but if we decide to, for whatever insane reason, not take an edge rusher in the 1st round, which I don't see that being an option. I like the San Diego State edge rusher, Cameron Thomas. I've talked a lot about him. Very versatile guy. Could play inside, can play outside. Looks like a twin of J.J. Watt. He looks like him. The build is very similar, and I would love to land him he's going to go probably in that range as well. I think he's a 2nd round pick guy. So for whatever reason, if we go Sauce at 4, or if we take a wide receiver at 10, I would love the idea of going and getting one of those edges that I just mentioned in the early 2nd round. Whew. All right. Let's keep going. We're doing good here. Let's go to scenario. And this is this is a 1 through 3 scenario. And what do you do if this happens? Before we do this, if you have not hit that button right now, go ahead. John is literally just posted that as I was saying it. Go ahead, hit the like button for us, guys. And if you're new and you haven't subscribed, do that. Subscribe to my channel. Check out Ryan's if you've been buried under a rock your entire life. And I would really appreciate the support. So, Hutchinson, Thibodeau, and Sauce go number 3. And I don't think that's completely outrageous. I've seen some people talk about that. Lovie Smith would probably love to have a cornerback like him on his team. So let's spitball it. Hutchinson's gone. Thibodeau's gone. Sauce is gone. James, you can go first. What would you do at 4 if your love crush? And I saw this post and I was like, I gotta include this in the stream for James, because he would always go for Sauce.
Yeah. Here I'll take Jermaine Johnson here. I'm getting to the point where in the beginning I wasn't there with him in the sense that I was okay at 10 with Jermaine Johnson, and I couldn't get myself there at 4. I had a conversation with with Joe over at Jets X Factor. We kind of exchanged when I finished watching the film on Jermaine Johnson. I kind of wanted to get his take on a couple of things. So we had a conversation, and I knew he wasn't there at 4, and I don't think he still is there at 4 for Jermaine Johnson. But I see a player that is extremely talented. He's polished in a few pass rush moves, and he also is excellent at setting the edge against the run. He's a high motor, high intensity player on the field. He fits the culture that we're trying to establish here. And so if those are 1, 2, and 3, I'm comfortable taking Jermaine Johnson at 4, given position and player, because I'm not there. I'm not there with offensive line for me. It's just not what I'm looking to do. So I'll go with Jermaine Johnson at 4.
Okie dokie. I'm trading back. Just cheating. I would love.
I don't think that's
back.
cheating.
It's a little bit cheating. Ryan, what would you do it for in this scenario? I'll put it back up if you need me to.
So I'm absolutely there with both of you guys, and I do think that this is a very possible situation to have happen. And I think this is where the Jets are really eyeing the trade down if that were to happen. I really like Jermaine Johnson, would have no problem with the pick. I think him going to the JUCO school, he got no offers straight out of high school to go to college, winds up getting into Georgia, doesn't get any playing time, moves over to the ACC and just tears it up. We see him tear it up at the Senior Bowl. Like, I really like Jermaine Johnson. I really think he's a humble dude. And watching the interviews with him at the Combine, I really, really like him. If we weren't to go that route, I think he could be there at 10. So that's why I might be a little bit more favoring of the trade down here. But I like the idea of moving down with the Steelers, moving down with the Saints, someone like that, and really getting, multiple picks. I like the Steelers trade down a little bit more because I like the first round pick in 2023 in conjunction with a wide receiver that we'd be getting in their trade and, the number 20 pick. I think it allows us to do some very interesting stuff. So I would be trying to get a trade down there. And then if I couldn't trade down, it would probably be Johnson for me.
Alrighty, that sounds pretty good to me. This is a message from D Jones, and he says, rumors from U Stadium, which they are on Twitter if you're not aware, and I think they have a website too, but he says the rumor from them is that Walker or Icky are going to go first with the Texans. I'm sorry, and Texans are going to go O-line. He said it should be an interesting 2 weeks. And there was a comment earlier about how we came into the offseason. Here it is. It's Christopher Moran. He says, the draft is wild. Jets fans have been debating the draft for 3 months, and we have more questions now than when we began. And that is a very good way to, I guess, summarize the offseason, the way it works. We talk over, we go through every scenario, and that's exactly where we are. T.A. Rugg, he says, JJ at 4 is a home run. A trade down with the Saints for both of their for both of their first-round picks is possibly a more attractive home run. He says, I don't want one of the Steeler wide receivers in a trade. They're not true wide receiver ones. I think Deontay Johnson could be. I think that with playing with Ben Roethlisberger, no disrespect to Big Ben, but he was not himself the last couple of years, not really the same quarterback. I think if Deontay Johnson had a guy like a Zach Wilson or, somebody that can really get the ball down the field, I think they'd use him in more creative ways. They use Deontay Johnson kind of like a Jarvis Landry. It's like a lot of short, intermediate stuff. I don't think that he lacks speed or deep speed. I think he could go downfield. So I think that he has wide receiver 1 ability, but we haven't really seen him with a quarterback that can truly get him the football. But no disrespect to you. If that's how you feel, no big deal. I will say if the option is there to trade back with the Saints at number 4, I'm doing that, no doubt. And if it's not there, I'm going with Jermaine Johnson as well. I think ideally Sauce is there, and it would be a no-brainer for me. And I would roll the dice, and I would wait till number 10. Like Ryan said, I would wait till number 10 to get my edge. That's been my stance all offseason. If Thibodeau is there at 4, I'd probably grab him and then take a wide receiver at 10. And if Thibodeau is not there, go get Sauce and then take an edge at 10. I just feel like that's the way to go, man. I don't know. All right.
One thing with the receiver too, with like if we were to get offered Claypool for some reason, um, do you think Joe Douglas, when he traded down 2 years ago and Van Jefferson, Claypool, and Mims were on the board, do you think he thought Claypool would go so early, or do you think he tries to maybe correct a wrong that might have happened to him? Like he wanted Claypool in that trade down, wound up taking Mims, which I loved at the time. I think it's still, the guy's got all the talent in the world, but um, I don't think it's totally out of the realm of possibility that Claypool would be the player.
Yeah. And I thought it was Van Jefferson, actually, they were targeting. So you thought it was
Mhm.
Claypool too? Or was it
I think it was both
one?
because we had the wide receiver coach in Van Jefferson,
Yeah.
but I think Claypool might have been. I don't want to say might have been more attractive. They were all three of them were pretty good. That's probably why he felt all right moving back. But I don't know if Mims was necessarily the target.
No, I think that's definitely the case. I would say, yeah, I would say that would be perfectly fine with me. Claypool to me is again kind of like the different that this offense doesn't have. We
Mhm.
don't have anybody quite that big, quite that fast. The combination of which I mean, James, what do you think? Claypool.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would. I know everyone in the. I'm looking at the chat. No one wants Claypool because I think he's like a TikTok star or something, right? I don't know.
I
Uh,
thought that was Juju. Is Claypool the same way? I didn't know that.
I
He
think. I
does,
think he.
yeah, a little
I
bit.
think
Yeah.
he is. Yeah, I think he's very similar. I mean, listen, on the football field, strictly, I'll take him. We don't have anyone like him, quite honestly. But I guess the off-field stuff can be a little awkward at times with the whole TikTok thing. But I
Mhm.
think that could essentially also be somewhat of a new normal that we'll have to get used to eventually because everyone's just going to be, online branding themselves in some form or fashion, which is perfectly fine. There's a life after sports and all that good stuff. But yeah, I mean, Claypool, if they wanted to offer us, only because, listen, if we're trading, especially if it's pick 4, and we have to go all the way to 20, that package better have nearly everything that the Steelers own, draft pick wise. That it's got to be multiple picks this year and multiple picks next year. That's a huge jump. So, but if Claypool wants to be a part of that package, I think I'd be on board at this point.
Yeah, I trading with the Steelers. You mean from 4 to 20 or from 10 to 20?
I'd go 4 to 20. I like the 4 to 20 drop a lot. I think you get a lot of picks in
Yeah,
next year's draft, and you get a lot of picks in valuable spots in this year.
it's like James said. That's a huge drop. So yeah, we would need to. It would be a haul. It would be an absolute haul, and I have no problem with doing that at all. Especially in the scenario where some of the guys that we wanted are not available. Frank Pagan, this is nice of you to say. Says he really likes your show, Ryan. No worries, man. Thank you for stopping
Yeah.
by. D Jones, he says Claypool is mid. Reminds me of Kelvin Benjamin. Oh man, I don't know if I can agree with that one, D Jones. Kelvin Benjamin basically ate himself out of the league. I don't think Claypool has that
Yep.
problem.
Didn't he go
No.
as he became like a tight end last
He
year,
did.
2 years ago? Didn't he with the
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Giants?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
He sure did. He really did. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's similar to what I said with Deontay Johnson and Ben Roethlisberger. I think Claypool would benefit from having a younger quarterback to be able to throw him the football. He's got a really high ceiling, I think, and that's kind of what you were talking about, Ryan.
Mhm.
The idea that Douglas really did want him instead of Mims, and Van Jefferson as well was in that conversation. Edward Stewart, he says, I've got my 24/7 shirt on right now. Nice. Good
Good man.
stuff. Yeah, yeah. All right. We've got one more scenario, and then I think we'll put a bow on the show. This is the last one. It's from Ryan Nilsson. This one's interesting because I shouldn't say that. It's interesting for you, Ryan, to answer, and I kind of put that in my notes. I was like, we already know what I'm gonna say and what James is gonna say, but actually, having heard you already, I think I do know what you're gonna say. So Hutch is gone, Trayvon is gone, and Ikem is gone. What are you doing?
I I would understand if they want to go Thibodeau. I want to get lost in the sauce. I
Yeah.
really do. I thoroughly love Sauce Gardner, and I want to make the selection there, and I think you're going to be able to get an edge rusher at 10, because when you look at the board, I think the Giants are going O-line at 5, Panthers are going quarterback or O-line. Giants are probably going with a secondary piece, whether it's a corner or a safety, with their defense, I think. You could see wide receiver with the Falcons, and then you could see tackle or possibly corner with the Seahawks, since we have DJ Reed now. So I think there's a really good shot an edge rusher is going to be there for us at 10. So I would take Sauce.
All right. And James? Tibbo?
Yeah, I would go Tibbs there at 4. I mean, Ryan does make an interesting point that I never really thought about it. I mean, math ultimately says if you have that amount of, top edges, right? And, the guys haven't gone, you're bound to get one at 10, especially, it's an interesting, George Karlaftis is a really interesting kind of wild card in all of this. Like, where does he fit? I know there are some guys out there that are more than comfortable with taking him at 10. And I don't see any scenario where he's not there at 10. I think he's going to be there at 10, no matter what. That's just my kind of feeling there. So, I mean, if you're good with him at 10, then you can get yourself all sauced up at 4 and then and be happy at 10. So it's interesting because I never really thought about the edge position like that, in terms of if you don't want to take Thibodeau, you could take Sauce, and then someone's going to be there for you at 10, unless you're just extremely lucky and there's a run on all these guys at once. But at that point, then you'll have a whole heck of a lot to choose from in other positions as well.
Yeah, and Thibodeau, if there's any thought to the Chris Sims, rankings or anything like that, they had him ranked as the 7th edge rusher. If you pass on him at 4,
Chris
Sims.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
he
no.
had it going. What was it? It was Hutch, Walker, Johnson, Karlaftis, Nick. What the heck's the guy's name from Oklahoma? Bonito. Yeah, and then Joshua Pascal from Kentucky, and then he had Thibodeau. He said Thibodeau doesn't do anything better than his top 5 guys. Now Bonito, for us, I would not put him in the top 5 because he's always rushing from a 2-point stance. And the versatility of Thibodeau to be able to play 3-4, 4-3, stand up, hand in the dirt, I think is valuable. But it's interesting because maybe he's there at 10 and you go Sauce, and that's kind of like the statement pick. This is what we want our guys to be about. And then, maybe you get the flashy guy in Thibodeau. But I think there's a lot of Jet fans that are concerned that he winds up becoming the next Lawrence Taylor and goes to the Giants. And then you have to deal with that for the next 10 years. And I can understand that.
Yeah, somebody earlier in the chat said, "Oh, great, we're gonna pass on Thibodeau and he's gonna go to the Giants." Awesome. So yeah, that definitely is a scenario. So that ranking is very interesting. Makes me think of his quarterback rankings. Who's the Texas A&M court? And I do respect his opinion on quarterbacks because he's pretty tried and true there. But who was the Texas A&M quarterback that he ranked? I think it was above Justin Field.
Kellen Mond.
Yeah.
So we don't know
that may not be crazy. I mean, we don't know what Justin Fields is going to wind up being. I like Fields more, but I don't know.
Sure. It's interesting nonetheless. I will stick to what I've originally said. I would say unless we're getting some crazy trade offer and we're going to get multiple first round picks this year, I would stick and pick. I would take Thibodeau at 4. And then I would take my wide receiver at 10, get the best one available. And I would still keep my ears, open for a trade back at 10. I think that's another option as well, so that you could trade back and still get a really good wide receiver and potentially be in a range where you could, if you do not take an edge, you can still get another one via the trade back. All right, we've got 200 head in here. Go ahead and hit that like button, guys. The show's almost over. We're getting closer to the end here. We do have a super chat I'm going to read from Jose Corniel. And he says, "Love the show, guys. Just take all the Bulldogs, including Jermaine Johnson." And that is true. Jermaine Johnson, a former Bulldog. My God. I mean, the number of really good freaking football players, you can just throw them off, off the top of your head. Lewis Seen, Trayvon Walker, who's the other linebacker? Tyndall, Quay Walker, the whole freaking linebacking core from Georgia is just
Yeah,
Go
Jordan
ahead.
Davis,
Yep, Jordan Davis, Devontae Wyatt,
Cook,
Devontae Wyatt,
Cook. Yep, Cook. That's right. Yeah,
my
George
boy Cook.
Pickens.
Yeah,
George
Pickens,
Pickens.
dude. Seriously, you could have the whole Georgia Bulldogs team on your team. And this brings up an interesting point. You mentioned it earlier, John, with the whole possibility of double dipping at edge in the top 10. And I think there's not a crazy, like, that could happen. Like, I could see a situation where you go maybe Walker at 4 and Jermaine Johnson or Karlaftis at 10. And the value there is that Walker can play inside or outside. John Franklin Myers, you get that versatility as well, but his guaranteed money's up after this year. So there is a situation where you could move on from him if you wanted to. His signing bonus wasn't that big, so you don't have a big dead cap hit. And you're also rotating through guys. And, with the Achilles injury to Lawson, I think there's some concern as to how much burst he may lose from that. I think it's like 7% of Achilles injuries, tears. I think it's 7%. Never play in the NFL again. I don't think Lawson's at that level, but I think there's usually a pretty, noticeable drop in burst with that particular type of injury.
Yeah, and people are the new trend now is everybody's looking at Cam Akers. What he did was remarkable.
Yeah, no.
As long as I've been watching football, watching sports, I've never heard of anybody doing that within the same, I guess like within a year's time, coming back and playing. That's unbelievable. So could we hope that for Carl Lawson? Yeah, of course we can. It's a very serious injury. It's a very thick tendon. It's not a small one. That's a very, and I'm no doctor, so don't quote me on that one, but it is a big deal. It's a big injury for sure. All right. With that being said, that is going to conclude episode 50. This is kind of bittersweet. It's a long haul to 50, but I really appreciate everybody, who joined us tonight. Don't forget, giving away that jersey. Hope you guys consider subscribing to Jets Today. Check out Ryan's content. I'm sure you've all been doing that, but I'm going to say it again anyway, just in case there's one person even out there. Anything you guys want to end the show with? James, I'll go to you.
Listen, congrats on 50 episodes. It's been really fun to be a small part of it. And Ryan, really nice to meet you. Thanks for the whole edge rusher at 10 thought in my mind. Now I'm just going to think about it all night long. And last quick thought, I'm nervous about Trayvon Walker at 4. I'll be quite honest with you guys. But with that, till next week, you guys have a good night.
Jorge Gonzalez, he says, in honor of the 50th episode, do an extra 50 minutes. Oh my gosh. I could stay on. Maybe. We'll see. Ryan, anything you want to throw out there before we close the book?
Yeah, dude, it's been a lot of fun. I know you reached out to me early on in your YouTube journey, and it's been a lot of fun watching you grow, and you're really doing it the right way. It's a lot of fun, and I appreciate you having me on. This was a blast. I thoroughly enjoy talking Jets, and anytime you want to have me on, I'm here.
I appreciate you, dude. That means a lot. Thank you guys so much. I think we'll Raw Power says no Walker. Yep, that's going to conclude the show, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you all have a great night. We will see you guys next Wednesday night. Be on the lookout for some videos this weekend. Go Jets, and a word from my daughter. Peace, y'all.